quote about when we think of the essence of trauma, when we think of the essence of just the memories and things that were a little more dense in our experience, we often have heavy sensations of discomfort or resentment or anger, and all these things come up in the body. But having that energy within us is what is shaping the perception of what we perceive to be today. And so trauma does affect us and our identity in a certain way. And so now in day-to-day experiences, as we become adults, when we try to build businesses, maintain healthy relationships, friendships, navigate through this world, so many things rise in the process stemming from that trauma. And we don't realize that it's more of an identity thing. We've learned to associate our identities with our trauma. So I always say, many of us don't really know who we are because it's just a combination of what we've been taught to be, what we've been shaped to be. And that thing, that essence of us that's been shaped, often isn't going to be the same one that's going to be the highest version of ourselves on a day-to-day reality as we come to, success in certain things.
Hey, so welcome everybody to another episode of the Becoming Hue-man podcast. I got a really special guest here with me today. All guests are special, but I'm super excited about this one. Ariana is an author. She's a spiritual practitioner. We actually met at a retreat and got to see what your dancing skills, your Latin dancing skills. I just put you on the spot. I'm sorry. We had a ton of fun. So like I'm super excited to just unpack your journey a little bit, talk about your book a little bit, and yeah, just have some fun.
Awesome. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, and just kind of like to jump off, just starting on your book. It's called Trauma is a Treasure, right?
Yeah, trauma's treasure.
Yeah, and so when I heard the title, I got excited, and I wanted to just kind of maybe see a little bit about how you took a word like trauma, which most people avoid, and you turned it into something sacred, gave it a sacred meaning. Like, how did that come about for you?
How did it come about? So, just like you said, when we think of the essence of trauma, when we think of the essence of just the memories and things that were a little more dense in our experience, we often have heavy sensations of discomfort or resentment or anger, and all these things come up in the body. But having that energy within us is what is shaping the perception of what we perceive to be today. And so trauma does affect us and our identity in a certain way. And so now in day-to-day experiences, as we become adults, when we try to build businesses, maintain healthy relationships, friendships, navigate through this world, so many things rise in the process stemming from that trauma. And we don't realize that it's more of an identity thing. We've learned to associate our identities with our trauma. So I always say, many of us don't really know who we are because it's just a combination of what we've been taught to be, what we've been shaped to be. And that thing, that essence of us that's been shaped, often isn't going to be the same one that's going to be the highest version of ourselves on a day-to-day reality as we come to, success in certain things. So I just wanted to really bring a different perception of trauma to the scene because it's not so bad as we make it seem. Yes, we went through very hard things, but in a soul essence, we wanted that and needed that to evolve into who we are today, for the wisdom that we could pull out of it, for the strength. It's all about the experience of coming on this earth and having the full spectrum of everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I like to. I've said for years that one of the greatest gifts you can offer someone is perspective, and I feel like that's what you do by playing with that word, that word that triggers a lot of anxiety in a lot of people. So I think that's really cool, and uh, it shows the depth to your thought process and how much you care. So another phrase I heard you say that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit is pain is a portal. Where did that come from? Was that something experiential, or did you learn that, or like how did that come about?
Yeah, I believe our deepest wisdom is found in the darkness, through the parts of us that are hard to see, that we might avoid. All the secrets are lying there, all the truths to what we are to be are there. And so when we think about the essence of pain, for most of us, it's something we want to rush through to try to get over with, to try to get out of it. But when you sit with it and you observe it and you see what's teaching you, even triggers are such a gift because it's showing you where in yourself you're setting boulders and boundaries to not free yourself, or not even free yourself, but realize that you are already free. And so when we go through pain, when we experience these things, I mean, it's just sensation in the body. And so learning how to make pain pleasurable, find, the pleasure in the pain, go through the portal with knowing its purpose behind it, allows for it to be a lot more neutral.
Yeah, yeah, no, and like how did you um like come to that realization? Like did you kind of have an epiphany one day, or was it a combination of you being taught but also having a aha moment also? Like,
Yeah, I say through my own experience, we all experience pain, something that's very universal, which I also think is beautiful, which another perspective of why trauma is treasure is because, we're all going through the same thing simultaneously, just in different forms, different ways, but it's still that same emotion. But I had found myself at a point in my life where everything in the external world was reflecting chaos completely. And I knew that in order to change it, it had to be something within me that was going on, the way I was thinking, the way I was perceiving this reality. So I actually intentionally put myself into a portal, a time frame where I decided I was going to sit with my pain completely. I mean, I stopped working. I separated myself from a lot of people. I got off social media. That's when I started meditating, going to the gym, like really switched my diet in that time. I really made it a goal to understand our mind in pain because I saw that this is the driver behind the seat in most of my own decisions. And I was crashing and I was finding chaos and accidents, but things along the way. And I knew that once again, I am creating it because it's the way that I'm perceiving this world to be. Not everyone else around me is experiencing the same thing. So I sat myself intentionally through a very painful time period. And although while I was in it, I didn't understand it. Have now looked back at it, I'm so grateful for that time period because by sitting with the dark, man, I learned so much wisdom that even things like books and things can never teach you.
yeah, yeah. So I heard you say you put yourself in the portal. That was intentionally or just kind of like circumstantially? Intentionally.
Yeah, intentionally. I knew
Okay.
if I knew if I kept going on the path that I was on, that it wasn't going to be what I wanted it to be. And once again, I knew I always was very ambitious, had all these deep goals and things, but once again, the mind was getting in the way, the trauma was getting in the way, the pain was getting in the way. So I was like, I'm going to have to find a way to see what the purpose of this was, what lessons are there, what gems are there, dive into this and really see what is the full meaning of this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool because so many people get to that point and they ignore it, like for whatever reason, the fear or past traumas, not understanding, not having context, not having anyone to offer them perspective. So I heard you mention something that I'm very familiar with, but a lot of people aren't or may not be, and I get this by when I hint at this particular topic. Sometime I could see the anxiety and the denial in some folks, and that concept that you touched on was your soul already being aware of the types of circumstances that you will find yourself in a particular in your lifetime. And for a lot of people, this seems like a, kind of a predestination or preordained, and it really rubs people the wrong way. And I understand why. Like, so how do you speak to that? How can you unpack that for people?
Yeah, so okay, when you think the essence of us and our full nature, right? We are having a human experience, but it's almost as if like the body is the car, the soul is the driver, right? So yes, we have free will, so we get to choose how we are navigating through this experience, what we put our perceived focus, attention, energy on, all of these things. But in reality, we're so much more than beyond just this body. We're connected to all that is, right? So when it comes to the circumstances that we've gone through, once again, we notice how every single person existing in this world experiences pain. They're going to experience all the duality of the emotions. It's universal. It's part of the beauty of having a body, being a human. You get to experience those things because, once again, in your soul, in a soul's perspective, in the highest aspect of you, it's that unconditional love. It's that bliss. It's that beauty. So there's so much pleasure in actually tapping into emotions because it's something that's unique to this experience that you're having right now. And so the soul, the whole journey of our lives is just to come back to ourselves, is to realize that this whole journey is a love story with ourselves, to the God, the source, the consciousness that's within. We wanted to forget for the joy and purpose and journey of having fun, remembering again through the infinite ways that we can do that, because there's so many paths that are all leading the same way, all up the same mountain, different paths. So when we think of the essence of our trauma and certain things, we all wanted to go through certain experiences for that pain, so then a portal could be represented to us that we could walk through just to come back to ourselves. And so it's almost as if when we're unaware of this, we keep creating honestly, we keep creating circumstances for ourselves, chaos for ourselves, to keep getting reflected back another invitation, another doorway, another reminder that there's another way. And it's the soul's way. It's connecting back to what is within, because that is the most pleasurable thing. We experience reality from when inside changes, externally changes. That's it's
Yeah.
but we've been like, so when it comes to things like anxiety and depression, all these things, it's almost as if you're trying to change the external world, but if you're going against the flow of the flow of nature, the laws of nature. And so even in anxiety and depression, we forget to come back to the breath, to the soul, to the larger spectrum of this. If we chose to come here, have this experience, you already won. You already won the game. Everything already worked out. Everything is perfect and complete. You're just witnessing the journey of the unfolding. And so when we get caught up in the anxiety and depression, it's because we want to be something, or we want to control something, or we want it in a certain time frame. But once again, that's just another mirror back to see, what am I not seeing right now? Why am I being triggered? Coming back to
Yeah.
self.
Yeah, so how that, and that's fascinating. So how do you create that space? How do you instruct people, or how do you personally create that space? Because for someone who's having a really great experience in life, oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, but for someone who is having the worst experiences in life, how do you, or maybe you've had some of those experiences, how do you reach that person, or communicate, or connect with that person, to help them to create some space to understand their power?
It's like, well, let me ask the question. Can you reframe it a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So, for instance, if when I'm talking with someone, and sharing a similar concept, um, the thing I always get hit with is like, well, what about murder? What about the most extreme, uh, scenarios? A person is having a horrible life. People say, "You mean they asked for that?" But if someone's having a great life, for them, oh, this makes sense. Yeah, I chose this. How do you help that person who can't see that, who's having a horrible experience? How do you help them create some space, within their life, within their subconscious, within their mind, to be able to understand, like, that this may be their decision on some level, and they ultimately have the power to reshape it?
So I believe that embodiment is the highest key, because in reality, we can't change anybody. I can't put the glasses on your face and make you see. There's a difference between knowledge and actual gained experience through doing. And no one can put you on their shoulder and take you along. That's something you have to walk through on your own. And so I truly believe that embodiment is key, because we're all reflections of each other. And through looking at other people, we then begin to get reminded and inspired of the power that is within us, because there's nothing that someone else can do that you cannot do, right? And so, first thing I would say always is embodiment. Two, though, one thing to give someone the tools, but I always influence people to find peace in solitude, and to really find peace within their self, to connect to their self on that deep level. It could be through yoga, it could be through meditation, it could be through journaling, it could be through running. There's so many different forms in which you can connect to that source essence within you, but you must realize that you are so much more than just this human mind, than just this body. Because if you navigate through this experience thinking and defining how you feel just based off of what you can see, touch, taste, and feel, you're always going to be a prison to your mind, and you're always going to run into those mental blocks because we create in the unseen. Everything is birthed in the unseen. So just influencing somebody to have the courage and the strength and just providing them with the tools and comfort and support to take that journey. And it is touchy, it's a very touchy subject when we do get into trauma, when we talk about murder, rape, all of these different things, because they're very intense experiences. It's not to downplay or bypass anything, because those emotions, they need to be felt, they need to be released, expressed, embraced. I mean, they are a channel to amazing, once again, wisdom. But it is a journey that we go through. There's a time and place for where and what you do with those emotions, etc. So it's and also just even an understanding that it is a journey, you know it
Yeah.
is a journey. You're always going to be on the journey. So how can you find peace within the body, within the breath, within the mind, so that no matter what, you're always the eye of the storm? Because life is always going to life. People are going to die, you might get your heart broke, the business might fail, friends might switch up, anything can happen. But as long as you maintain and are connected to that peace within, you know that you can always come back home to that feeling.
Yeah, and I see one of the ways that you're practicing being an example for other people, and embodying what you share with folks. And you just came back from your 10-day meditation retreat. Um, what was that like? I know you're really excited to talk about that and your own personal transformation. Like, what was that like?
Love intentionally putting myself through very hard circumstances to prove to ourselves just how powerful we really are. So I knew in doing that, no talking, no bringing your personal practice in, no phone, 11 hours a day of meditation. I knew that I was going to reach levels within my mind, within myself, that were never touched before. So that was my intention going into it, to observe more is what is within, because like I said, the journey never ends. It's always unfolding. And even in the fact of our body is literally a library, our cells are holding the cellular memory of all that we've gone through. And so you yourself are a movie, a whole journey that you can go through, if you really sit and study yourself, your body, etc. But that experience was life changing. I was able to really change and deepen my perception of thoughts on a whole nother level. And since I've been back, I've noticed my ability to really yoke myself into the present moment very much more intentionally, more patience, and just overall way more connected to the essence, the spirit that is within me. It was amazing.
So at first, did it feel like madness to you? Did you, um, yeah, uh,
Yeah. You
you
know,
know,
um, it was the whole roller coaster. It was the whole journey of emotions. I cried every single day. Happy tears, frustrated tears. I mean, when you really sit and observe your thoughts, it's interesting because more than 90% of our thoughts are literally just coming from the subconscious mind, which is your past programming. So, quite literally, the way you view reality most of the time, if you're not presently observing the thoughts, is from a past perspective, which is why so many of us continue to create the past over and over and over again. It really is key to be able to come back to the present moment all the time, because you are always creating. And so, in sitting in those long meditations daily, a lot of stuff comes up within you. A lot of stuff. I mean, things you probably never would have ever thought of again. But the whole practice is to simply just realize the impermanence and the nature of the law of nature. So every single thought that comes up, if you realize, it's either coming from the past or it's coming from what you perceive to be the future. And it's generating two things within the body: sensations that you like and sensations that you don't like. But regardless, when you start to watch them and observe them, they're just sensations. They're just impermanent. They're going to go away. The discomfort is temporary. The pleasure is temporary. If you can find the ground in between, not clinging to anything, but also not falling to aversion and making peace with the neutrality. And so and sitting and observing those thoughts, you start to see that thoughts are almost just like a rain cloud letting rain go. And when we choose to grab one and follow it and study it, that's where we start to lose ourselves. That's where we start to sever away from the present moment. Thoughts in itself are neutral. It is us that gives them meaning, defines them. Then we try to decode them, and then we try to take that and be like, oh, I haven't healed from that because it's still coming in my mind. This not, but once again, the mind is just a library replaying back old memories. So it allowed me to be able to observe my mind with a level of detachment and understanding of the impermanence and natural nature of reality, which has been very helpful for me navigating through all of this.
Yeah, no, and that's super fascinating because I I tell people all the time, like, and I'm not speaking as an expert because every time I feel like I've reached another level in meditation and I have more powerful experiences, I meet a master who's like, well, you're not doing this, like, and then I'm like, oh, and it's like I'm starting from scratch all over again. But I often tell people that you haven't really, and this isn't to put anybody down, like, you haven't really experienced meditation if you haven't experienced like the madness that comes with it once you've sat in silence um, for an extended period of time. And yeah, I remember I share a little story because I've been like just coming at you with all of the questions. Um, when I was in the Marines, like we would go on these field operations and you'd be like out in nature for a few weeks, and it'll just be you and one other person. You alternate like sitting facing nowhere for like all day just on guard duty, but it's training, so we're not really guarding anything, we're just sitting there. you know After a certain amount of time you run out of songs to listen to, you run out of things to say to yourself, and then you feel like you're going mad, and you have like 2 more weeks left to just sit here next to this tree with no one to talk to, nothing to do. And I would find myself just like watching like a insect crawl, and I just like start crying. Like it was just like the most beautiful, just the random things like flowers blowing in the wind. It was just like insane. And so like I definitely relate to what you're saying. And I tell people all the time, like, you need a sensory detox. Like you need to be able to go somewhere where you can turn everything off, because when I'm sure you experienced this, when you started to come back, you realized how loud everything was. Everything, like
Yeah.
even your own house, like
Oh,
the fridge,
yeah.
like everything. Like
It's
it's
overwhelming.
it
I wasn't
is.
ready to talk again. My nervous system was in shock,
Yeah.
hearing the voices, being asked questions. You also start to realize how many of us just spit out thoughts in conversation with one another. There's so much intimacy in silence because in reality, nothing is silent. Even in a scientific perspective, our ears can't perceive all the sounds that are simultaneously existing, but it's always loud. But when
Yeah.
you silence, your mouth, and you the sensory deprivation, man, you start to hear the guidance of your higher self, of that God source consciousness on a whole nother level. And that's why I think there is so much intimacy and beauty in just existing next to someone in that silence, because everyone is their own compass. Everyone is their own
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah.
Everyone knows exactly what they need within. It's just a matter of giving someone the safeness and the space to be able to explore that within themselves.
It has it been, and I'm not trying to like create triggers within you. I'm just trying to like unpack your experience,
Yeah.
like, because it's been my experience too. What has it been like uh, sitting in conversation with people where they're just spitting out random things that you maybe used to feel compelled to entertain, but now like you feel how much that drains your energy to just entertain random things that don't really have any substance for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just keep getting reminded of the practice of compassion and just coming back to the heart, because in the end of the day, it's ignorance. And even me, myself, all of us, because we're eternally on the journey, there's always going to be a level of ignorance that we have. And on a day to day basis, we're always falling in and out of consciousness. We're going on different dimensional spectrums all the time because of our awareness constantly bouncing from one place to another with all the distractions, with all the noise. So it's a practice. I think the real work, the real spiritual work, is actually going in day to day reality and applying it in real life and bringing that. How grounded can you stay around your family on those vacations? How grounded in your truth can you stay when someone isn't acting maybe in the most compassionate way at the grocery store or wherever it is? So I just always offer that compassion first and try my best to not judge, once again, just observe, because even that moment I'm experiencing is impermanent. I always bring everything back to reflection because if something is even triggering me, how come, But I
Yeah.
also, of course, do advise people to just come back to the breath, come back to the present moment, even when it comes to complaining or when it comes to being so worried about the future or upset because what you want isn't here right now. You have to realize everything is right now. The only thing that exists is the present moment. And the minute you start to sit in that, you start to experience it, right? So we can collapse time in multiple ways when we can come back to the presence, but it once again takes someone to really be able to understand and observe that whatever they're experiencing is impermanent. So if
Yeah.
you have a negative thought, if you have fear come up, that's okay. Don't try to push it away, get mad at yourself, give it so much energy. Just observe it, accept it, laugh, and come back to your truth. What identity are you choosing to become? Not even become, but just unfold into because you are that already. But what identity are you choosing to navigate through this world with? Coming back to whatever energy that version of you is carrying through because they're always present.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so true. And I feel like one of the hardest adjustments that I had to make, um, and just be mindful for or be mindful of is I realized that so many of our conversations revolve around measuring ourselves with other people as well as complaining about how great your life is. Complaining about your circumstances when there's someone else who would probably die for their circumstances. And that one took a lot of patience. That one took a lot of compassion because I realized that there wasn't any fulfillment in measuring myself against other people, nor complaining about how good I have it.
Yeah, and it's a beauty and a gift that we have of co-regulation. So I definitely agree. It is a little difficult to navigate through certain conversations, especially when it's more on a surface level, because I think that we really understand the depth of our human experience and how impermanent, how short this experience is, how beautiful it is, how rare it is to even be here now experiencing what we are. And so, as humans, we hold great medicine to one another and we can really unpack a lot together and experience a lot together. But we have been conditioned, even within the ways of which we communicate, to just really just touch on the surface. Most people, if you think about it, everyone asks each other, "Oh, how are you? Oh, good, how are you?" No one's even present enough to answer honestly from the heart, to really allow people the space to even be able to be that inspiration, to be the medicine to one another. So I definitely agree with you on the level of just trying to navigate through certain conversations.
Yeah, and I love that being we're medicine to one another. Like that's beautiful. I never heard that one before. It there's a like how should I say? There's a growth in having that realization, but it's also like I all right. So I'll come back to that, but I think it's so refreshing. Like being at the retreat, right? And being in a group of people or being around a group of people um, who've all had these realizations for ourselves, and there wasn't any measuring each other. There
Mm.
wasn't um, a lot of surface level talk. It was just real genuine, honest interaction. I was sharing with some of the other folks who we met at the retreat how at first it kind of like caught me off guard because I've been to a lot of retreats, but
Yeah.
normally it's with monastic folks, and the energy is like normally super calm and controlled, and and I walk into this retreat, I was late. My flight was late. It was chaotic for me getting there. I walk into the room and everyone's like, "Hey, nice to," and like it caught me completely off guard. Like it took time for me to adjust to being in a high energy situation, but yet no
Mm,
one was measuring themselves or judging
yeah.
or being negative. It was it was something that was very unfamiliar um,
Yeah.
for
And
me. Did
well,
you feel the same way?
I did, and it's a breath of fresh air because the deeper you go within yourself, the deeper you begin to understand that you are experiencing yourself through this reality. And once again, everything at its core is all originating from that same essence. Everything is you in another face, in another expression. And so this is why, also again, like bringing trauma as treasure into it. And yoking back how we are medicine to one another. When you let go of the resentment or the embarrassment or just those emotions that rise with your trauma and stop identifying with it, you begin to look at it in a different lens and you begin to become more grateful for it because of the lessons and because of the awareness that you're operating now through, right? So it's like we almost see, we understand that everyone has gone through similar experiences, and so just being able to be in deep communication, to actually express what's real, what's true, what's authentic, what made us us, it is so beautiful because it is healing, it is liberating, it is
Yeah,
refreshing, it is freeing, and it is energy. You can feel it when you come around certain people, and that
yeah,
retreat was amazing. The
it
energy there was
is.
beautiful.
It was, and I'll repeat it again just for so many folks. Like, yeah, you may experience it like at a sports game or something, but you're not really talking to people. Like you're all cheering for the same team, but it's so different when you walk into a high energy place where everyone's excited to see you, but no one cares who you are or what you've done.
Yeah,
It's
I
just a
love you because
genuine.
you're you.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's a rare space within our society that I'm so fortunate that we have so many people trying to grow those spaces.
Yeah.
Right?
We need it. We need, like I said, we need it more than ever. Because we're not defined by, what we bring into this world, what we accomplish, the goals that we are able to, check off the to-do list, the brackets that we reach. We're worthy inherently because we exist, because we are being, because of where we originate from, because of the essence that we are even underneath this flesh.
Yeah. You heard one of my affirmations.
I love those affirmations. Thank you so
no,
much for bringing the positivity every day.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to like circle back to um, just more about trauma since we're kind of transforming it for people, so it doesn't have such a negative connotation. Uh, so like with challenges that you face personally, sharing this message with people, like I'm curious because now in today's world we have
Yeah.
a language for a lot of this. Science corroborates so much of it, and I remember just like 7 or 8 years ago, in my own personal life, family, it would be hard to have these types of conversations because one, you didn't have the language, and for so many people, it just felt, you know, it's like no, you just tough through stuff. Uh, and there's a time and a place for you sticking through and not giving up for sure. Um, but like, what's a challenge that you face now, even though we have the language to communicate these things? Like, what are some challenges that you still face, within your personal life when
Yeah.
communicating?
That's a good question. Like one challenge I could say that still rises in the navigation through it once again, because things are always going to come up in the physical world. I would say the challenge that I come back to is just the law of impermanence. Yeah. The law of impermanence. Because it's very easy for us to want to cling and attach to things. Even who you are today, the people around you, etc. You as you expand your consciousness and evolve, of course you're gonna attract more into your reality. It's better, better things, different things, everything. But once again, coming back to that nature of law of impermanence, it's one thing to have awareness of maybe different aspects of this reality of consciousness, etc. But at the end of the day, you still are in a human body, so you're gonna sit with the grief and the misunderstandings and all those things. So I would say just you know, every single day, I like to say every day is the best day ever. Every day is like you never know what you're going to experience, the unfolding of it all. And because we are the whole vast spectrum, you can't ever really know how you're going to feel tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And so, even when it comes to the sense of consistency and discipline and motivation, that's something I wish I would have understood when I was younger. You're gonna have to do the things that you need to do even when you don't feel like it, because not every day you're not going to feel like doing those things, because
Yeah.
we have the whole spectrum of the reality. So just really being able to sit in the days where you're not feeling your best but still know that, okay, it's impermanent, let's keep going. I'm observing this, it's passing, it's old things coming up at that. Because when you take the path of, I would say healing. Just really maybe coming to a alchemist of your trauma, or choosing a righteous lifestyle. It's already done because you made the choice. You're already becoming more and more that version of yourself. But we have to realize how much we have faced in our lives and dealt with and even pushed on to other people when we were operating in a consciousness that just wasn't as aware. And so things do come up. It's
Yeah.
it's part of our experience. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I mean, I would say too, just like, uh, I know we've all said this phrase, like, I wish I would have known when I was younger. Uh, but you wouldn't have appreciated it the same, because now
Yes.
the fact that you could say that mean you have wisdom to apply. So, it's supposed to happen for you right now. This is
Yeah.
this is the time where you could apply yourself and appreciate, what you get from it,
Yeah.
whether
That's
whether
true.
whether favorable or not.
Yeah. Because everything does happen for a reason. Just accepting that, like, the way everything unfolded was for the lessons that you are now pulling out. It couldn't have gone a different way. And even to what you just said, there's certain knowledge or things that someone could have brought to you 5 or 10 years ago. You wouldn't have been receptible to it. You wouldn't have been able to receive it. It would have gone right over your head.
As it has.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking with Ellie Tom about that. I was like, here I was having this, like, this crazy experience, and I had no context whatsoever. I was just mindless, just, but yeah, that's part of life.
Yeah, well, because it really what it comes back to is just avoiding the self. It's when we're operating in a place of navigating through so much pain, it seems so much easier in times to run, to suppress, to hide, to numb. But in reality, underneath all of that pain is the pleasure that you are seeking for. Nothing outside of you can ever bring you that fulfillment like what within can. And so oftentimes I feel that when we are getting certain advice or reminders through the reflections in front of us, again, wisdom isn't enough. Someone has to walk through that journey within themselves and have the courage to be able to hold themselves through it.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And, let me see. I got sometimes, like, you just get in the flow, and then, like, you kind of get
Thoughts come up
off
and then
track. I actually prefer being in the flow as opposed to, like, having something structured, but
yeah, me too, me too.
I don't want to, like, downplay the importance of having structure too, because that that's
Balance.
that's been one of my challenges in life. Like, I love that flow state, but, like, recent years I've been learning the importance of building the structure also.
Yeah, it's really navigating that masculine and feminine energy that's within both of us, having that harmonic union and balance, because both
Yeah.
energies just like it is important that we touch on that actually, because there's a time and place for rest and receiving, and there's also a time and place for action and doing. And if we dominate too much in the other, that's when the the
Yeah.
imbalance starts to manifest itself in different forms into our what we experience in the body, but also what is being reflected outwardly, because that's what we're creating based off of what is going on internally.
Yeah, yeah. No, facts. So let me see. All right, so let's see. You're sharing your story at a time when more people are open to trauma healing, energy work, and spirituality. How do you think the collective openness today has shaped your journey? All right,
Oh,
just
yeah, the collective openness.
yeah, because so many. Yeah, I mean, it's we're growing up in a world where like we can, you can do it.
Yeah, it's more accepted now.
Yeah,
10 over 10 years ago, it would have been a little more taboo, or just certain things. I'm so grateful for the unfolding. We are in the age of Aquarius right now. We are going through like a huge reset on the planet in every aspect. We see it reflecting through the systems, through our own energetic fields, everything. So I am truly very grateful, actually, because once again, everything is a reflection of me. So to be able to see so many people, in their own craft, in their own expression, in their own vulnerability, it's been a great inspiration, honestly.
yeah. And do you face like any type of criticism or anything like from like family, friends? I know that's like the place where the most criticism comes from. Like,
Yeah, a lot of people that's when you've been operating in a certain state of being for so long, once again, before I would say you kind of meet that inner child with compassion. But when you realize that, oh, okay, who I've been is not really who I am. It's a collection of who I've been trained to be. And then once again, you start to notice the programming from whether it be parents, schools, religion, teachers, all these things. You start to realize, okay, I have the freedom to create my own identity. And that one is based off of true authenticity, right?
yeah,
So you gotta think about it. When you've been operating in a way of trying to like hide yourself or suppress yourself or putting on a mask or something for so long, and you start being your authentic self, a lot of people don't understand at first. But once again, that is medicine. Even that, whether someone appreciates what you're bringing to the table or it triggers them, either one is medicine. Either one, because we're reflections of each other. And so it's even the essence of my book, it really connects to the collective energy right now. It's funny. Originally, I actually wrote a memoir,
yeah,
and that put me through a very, very deep, deep year. Honestly, I did a who, what, when, where, why, how of every single age, and I sat with that for a long time. And intuitively, towards the end of it, I knew that wasn't it, that there was something else that had to be birthed, and I didn't understand it at first, and there was a lot of resistance because I worked so hard on that book. But I realized after sitting with it, just meditating it, going even deeper into my own shadow work, into my own self, I was able to pull out so many gems from that. And then just looking at what is going on in the collective today, all the things that are unfolding, and just the new beginnings that are in the process of being birthed and collapsing, and all these things, I realized that all of us are going through a collective awakening. All of us. A lot of us are realizing, like the inherited dream or the systems, all these things weren't what we thought them to be. And so it does force us to come back to, well, what is truth? And it's an inward journey, right? So because people are so open and accepting right now, and because people are going through that rebirth, I pulled out in that book it's a guide to be able to help people navigate through it and understand it on a deeper level, because it is, once again, like the whole spectrum of emotions. We're going through a very shifting time in this planet right now.
yeah. And like with being sensitive to everybody's circumstances, because I've I'm a war veteran, and we've all experienced traumas in our lives, and mine isn't any more important or significant than anyone else's. Um, I do think though, like this point in time, like just with civilization being at as advanced in some ways as it is, it really is. You couldn't ask for, or I mean, it really is a great time to kind of have these types of traumas and realizations, as horrific as they may be, because I'm also a student, studying psychology, and what's very present for me, which isn't present for most people who are adults, is the history of humanity. Like I am dissecting a version of it every day. And and
It's
it's
awesome.
different when you learn it as an adult. Like people went through some stuff. Some
Yeah.
stuff. Even surgeries, right? Having surgery with no anesthetics. Like think about that. Think about everyone in your life who you know who's had a surgery, right? With no anesthetics. Think about you could be separated from someone you love accidentally and never know how to find them again. Like all of these things that we take for granted, that doesn't negate the trauma that people experience today, but there's still a quality to life today that people didn't have, X amount of years ago. So, I want to remain compassionate to everyone's trauma and suffering,
Yeah.
but I do think this is a perfect time for us to help each other transition through it, right? And turn that trauma into a treasure.
Yeah. And it's just realizing the connectedness on one another, you know? We all at core desire love.
Yeah.
It's the root of everything. It's the root of a lot of our suffering. It's the confusion or anger towards a need not being met or a certain level of love not being received. And so, I like to say we're all family. Everyone is your brother and sister.
Yeah.
We all can bring that healing energy to one another. And so compassion, compassion is the biggest thing. It's so easy for people to get annoyed or judge somebody based off of how they're acting in this day-to-day reality. But those are the people, when we see maybe even the crime scene and certain things, like those are the people that are calling out for that love the most. Those are the people that really need the most of it. We can't neglect anyone's circumstance, trauma, or anything, because once again, we've all gone through very, very intense experiences. But by being compassionate, by being loving, by actually showing up authentically vulnerable, sharing ourselves with another, this is how we're able to release some of that energy, to heal, and to see that it is a shared experience, which is never going to take the memory and certain things out of it, but it does bring in the remembrance of, oh, okay, I'm not alone in this, because that's where most people get stuck at, is feeling alone. Because okay, true, no one experiences reality the same exact way as you. We're all existing on this earth, but no one experiences it the same way, because we all walk through different lens. All of our minds are our own universe. There is multiple timelines existing at once. But coming back to that core remembrance of, we are existing on this earth together, and we can navigate through this experience together by realizing it's never us against one another. It's really just us working with what's inside of us. And a lot of people, once again, it is that wounded inner child that is moving through this reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And so on that note, like what does like healing on a worldwide scale, look like for you? I know we was just kind of unpacking the individual.
Yeah, honestly, letting go of the inherited dream, dropping the labels, and realizing that we're really one, and that we're very powerful together, and that there's never been true separation. It's very intentional for us to be separated, or to think that one another is the enemy, another country is the enemy, but we're all existing simultaneously on this plane. I mean, we all come, like, we're all expressions of the divine. And so, even like I said, like you going within and taking that journey within yourself, realizing that you coming into this world with that level of compassion. And this is why I think it is important. I really appreciate the retreat you went to. I think it's important that we continue to create and navigate more experiences where we're bringing people together, doing the healing work together, and spreading it worldwide, because it's really going to take for us to come together and really realize that we are all so similar. It doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you're born, it doesn't matter what you like. At core, we're all just different expressions. And so it's going to take for us to really move through a loving, compassionate energy and work together, honestly, because if it is our collective consciousness that creates this experience, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And so, one of the last things I want to like touch base with you on is like how's your food journey been?
So interesting. So interesting. Oh, it's so funny you say that. I've been, like I said, from the retreat, going into the other retreat, the 10-day retreat. I mean, as you start to experience with your own vessel, you learn a lot, you know? But one of the first things I talk about in the book is intuition. And I believe that there is no wrong or right way to living. It is so unique to your own experience. So following your intuition. And so, um, my own intuition has just led me to a very lighter lifestyle. I just feel way better in that way. I can meditate way better when there's not things that are, that density,
Yeah.
etc. So ever since the pranic the pranic retreat, it's definitely been lighter. I mean, I became plant-based years ago. I do parasite cleansing. That was another thing that really awakened me to a lot, was the parasite cleansing, and realize how much is really within us, like
Yeah.
stored from just the years of unconscious eating,
Yeah.
etc. So, just as a soul navigating through a feminine body, though, I really just match up the way I treat my body through the hormonal cycle. So the four different stages that women have each month. That way, just aligning certain herbs to it. So each week I have a different tea I take. If I am closer to that menstrual cycle, I will
Yeah.
eat. I will eat a little, like just bring in a little more iron, lentils, whatever it is, just to support that release that my body is going through. But it's really just intuitively. I noticed that my body desires certain things when it's getting closer to that. But
Yeah.
altogether, honestly, I just eat very intuitively when I feel called to. I mean, I have my teas every day, my herbs. No matter what, I'm putting fruit juice in my body first thing in the morning, last thing at night. But
Yeah.
it's uh it's an interesting journey for sure.
I know where I imagine I know where a lot of the difficulties lies. Like, and I know, like, just to speak to your point on learning to listen to your body. Um, when it starts to get cold, my body starts to crave, just from over the years of eating this way, stuff like sweet potatoes and just like heavier starches. It's like wanting to that's what it's been accustomed to.
Yeah.
And so, learning how to not, be hard on myself and find ways to to
Yeah.
to kind of honor some of, my past things I would do with my grandmother, like foods I would eat,
Yeah.
but just do it in a much more conscious and healthier way.
Well, I love that you bring that up because it's just, once again, it goes directly into the essence of childhood,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we only eat the way we do because of how we got brought up or
yeah,
what we've been taught, etc. And so it is like stepping into an intuitive lifestyle is very freeing, but it does cause you to be able to really be connected to that core of your inner being, because it's not going to look the same as what most people around you are going to do. And questioning certain things like food, our intake, our health, holistic healing, all of these different things, it's a very internal journey. But I love that we're able to go back and just reflect, because
yeah,
realistically, there is no one size fits all. There's no book, there's no one thing that could tell you how to be a good human, how to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of our bodies, I feel like, even just in the upgrades we're going through on this planet, a lot of us are being called to be a little lighter, to cleanse a little more, to do certain things.
yeah. It makes a difference for so many folks.
Yes.
And
It
so,
does. That channel.
yeah. What's that like with your family? I know, like, for me, it had gotten to a point where, well, I got to a point where, like, I was gonna make like some changes regardless, and like, it's almost like kind of disrespectful to family in a way. That's kind of how it's perceived. Like, I made all this and you ain't gonna eat none of it. Like, it's a but like honoring, your journey, not in a selfish way like that, but just like understanding that, my case, like, I had a health scare,
Mhm.
and part of the confusion for me was just like, all right, I'm sitting down with people who have had way more severe health scares than me. Like, where's the disconnect? And like, I understand where the disconnect is, but at the same time, it's just like you're not seeing it. Like, you're not. What has that been like for you? Like with family in that regard?
Yeah. There's been moments where, just like you said, food is a ritual. It
Yeah,
really is. And I see now looking back at it, it is a way of people showing love.
it is.
That's
It
one of the
is.
ways people just show love. And so I've definitely gone through some challenges just with loved ones around me where they do get very triggered. And I feel truly it's because it causes them to reflect back on their own way of living.
That's
And so
the.
it is quite uncomfortable,
It
especially when it
is.
comes to the aspect of food, because our brains have been taught to associate food with survival. And so it's very touchy. It's very touchy for a lot of people, especially in the fact of that being the one of the lead causes to the health issues and etc. And so, I try to navigate through the people around me and understanding that there's so many different ways that we can share to and connect to and give love aside from just the food. But just being the embodiment, I don't force my lifestyle upon everybody. I remember when I first started just a holistic lifestyle, I wanted to go around and tell everybody how good I felt, the benefits, etc. But it's again it's a very intuitive journey, because even with food, right? I feel that there's a lot of allusion to even the diet culture. It's like people are going into these things wanting to do challenges, wanting temporary change so they can get fast results. The way that I look at my relationship with food, it has nothing to do with the way I want my body to look or a challenge or anything. It really is
Yeah,
the essence of like what is the energy that I'm putting into my body, because that is going to affect the way that I feel. It's going to affect my thoughts, my emotions. Our body is really a
exactly.
temple. And so it takes for someone to make that switch and realize my body is a temple. I
Yeah,
cannot just put anything onto it, inside of it, through my ears, anything. Like I am a living temple. How would I go treat that temple? I would bring offerings, flowers, the best of the best. And so it takes, once again, someone to realize the essence of their body, the essence of the importance of even just living mindfully. So once
yeah,
again, it just comes to the embodiment and sharing with people things, because when we think about why why do we eat what we eat, most people are going to say, oh, because of protein, oh, because of this mineral, oh, because of this. Okay, well, there's ways you can now break that down to people and explain, okay, well, now when you bring more things, maybe like sea moss, or when you bring certain things like herbs, herbal tea every day, like there's so many different ways that we can incorporate steps, because there's steps and levels. I feel like
yeah,
everyone,
yeah. You don't
not
just jump
everyone is
from.
meant, yeah, like,
Yeah,
and even with people, like, not, I don't think everyone should stop eating food completely. I don't think that would, I don't know. I don't know if we as a society could really, so maybe that's not the goal for everybody, but just
yeah,
consciously eating and aligning ourselves back to natural living. So even just the circadian rhythm, even
yeah,
understanding like what is your body really asking for. So for example, if you're craving an apple, okay, so maybe it's not the apple itself, but it's the vitamins, it's the it's that things that we can now focus and bring energy towards. So even just getting people to understand that the food that they're consuming and putting into their body, it is energy, and it can be medicine. It's not supposed to be purely just for pleasure. It is medicine.
yeah. And I like what you said too about being an example, and that was one of the ways I had to check my ego. It was like, all right, I need to stop talking to people, preaching to people, because this is like hurting me way more than it's hurting them. And
Yeah.
I had to check my ego and just embody my own message. But then
Yeah.
too, another way I had to check my ego was, instead of frowning down upon people who were struggling with the way they ate, or whatever the case may be, I I started bringing them like things that they liked, cakes,
Yeah.
pastries, like,
Yeah.
like, because if I'm doing it like for them, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not for me, it's for them. And And if they haven't had a certain type of realization yet, that's not for me to judge. But
Yeah.
if I care about how they feel, then I will do a gesture that they will appreciate. You
Yeah,
know?
and if we think about it too, even when it comes to the aspect of maybe even people with a food addiction, etc., a conversation about the food is not going to the root
No,
causative act. It's not. So
no.
it's even what is the root cause driving this behavior? And so once again, when you start to sit with the body and observe it, oh, okay, there's a sensation that comes up when you have a desire, when you
Yep,
have a craving for something. Most
yep,
of us haven't been learned how to simply just observe it and how to come back to the present, how to come back to body regulation, nervous system regulation. So what do? We cling to it, we run to it. And that when it comes to, the clinging or aversion, both of them are just going to multiply, multiply, multiply. It only
yeah,
gets stronger and stronger, but we feed it, right? So, even in essence of, okay, once again, what is the root cause of every single choice, decision, memory, everything that we make? It was formed in the most developmental years of our life, which is childhood. So, let's go back to the root cause so that we're not just touching on the surface, even the way in which this is why we're medicine to each other, because we're able to pull out of each other that inner child. That's it. That's all.
yeah,
Like when you're arguing with somebody, when there's a misunderstanding with somebody, when there's a trigger, you're not talking to them. It has nothing to do with the current situation, the
yep,
current thing.
yep.
We're just pulling something out of each other, a wound, a memory that's already been there, that's been waiting for the opportunity to come up, to be released, to be accepted, to be alchemized. So even just realizing what is the deeper root underneath this, because it has nothing to do with the food, it has nothing to do with this moment.
Yeah, and that's spot on. That's true. And I think too, like that inner child is uh, the reason why I mean it's unconscious because it happens for a lot of people before they have a conscious memory. And and in psychology we talk about this term called classical conditioning. And and just through the environment, right, your environment, and without like getting all scientific or anything like that, just through the environment, your environment trains you, right,
Yeah.
to behave a certain way. So like so much is before like you had conscious memory. So like even something as simple as you becoming accustomed to hearing the cabinet door open,
Mm.
it triggers. It's already conditioned you. It's already trained that door. Or hearing the bag of potato chips crunch, right? Those things, they're not silent for a reason. Like I'm pretty sure there's some type of science that goes into that. Like, all right, look, when they hear this crunch, like they won't be able to resist.
Yeah.
Like it's a reason why like the wrappers on our food make noises. Things like that. Like it's your environment is training you
Yeah.
to react if you haven't, like you say, um, been taught the skills of how to respond, how to
Yeah.
recognize, how to.
Yeah, we experience reality through the senses. And
Yeah,
so that's where that awareness comes through of that I am just more than the body. I'm experiencing what it's like to navigate through this experience inside of a body, but I am able to have control of my body. And touching on the environment too.
yeah,
That was honestly the beginning of me birthing my book, was me booking a one way to Mexico. Completely just I was like, I just following my intuition completely, going across the country. I was able to meet a whole different level of myself, observe my perception of life. I mean, really connect to that little girl, that little essence within me, because nothing around me was familiar. Nothing around me was predictable. Nothing around me was what I was used to. And so I think there's so much benefit at points in our like traveling to me is one of the
yeah.
biggest life hacks, because of the way in which it is working with your brain. Even when you are intentionally putting yourself in circumstances that are, if not what you're used to, some stress may came up, that is
Huh?
when you are learning yourself the most. How
Yeah.
can you navigate through that? Can you bring the practice? It's so, everyone can sit down and meditate and do the breath work and read the books, but when chaos comes up in the day-to-day reality, can you maintain that energy? That is all it comes down to.
How do you respond? Yep.
Yeah, because our environment, it does. Whether we want to admit it or not, it's even in this moment right now, it does shape the way that we are experiencing this.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not when I learn these things, I'm like, like so much of it was experiential myself. Like I started figuring these things out, just through my own trial and error. But learning these things in a formal setting, like you're like, oh my goodness, like there's this. I thought we were oblivious before. Like there's just like everyone's just like bumper cars, just like roaming around, like just
Yeah,
bouncing around through life, and someone who's managed to like get through the crowd, they're like, "Oh, I figured it out," and they tell
never.
everybody else how to do it, but it's the reason why it rarely works for everybody. Like you got to
Yeah.
go through it. Like it has to be your experience. But
I think the beauty of it is too, is just that the duality of this whole entire experience. Also just realizing that the more we learn, the more we realize we really know nothing. And that's what's so beautiful about this human experience. I mean, there's infinity of knowledge. You can become anything you want in this world. You can study anything, you can learn anything, you can do anything, you can go anywhere. Like there's really no cap to your experience. Everything is possible for you in this world. So I think it's just even amazing to realize and keep the awareness of no matter how much wisdom you gain, no matter how much you learn, you are still always a student to this world, a teacher. And
yeah,
even source is infinite, so you can't
yeah,
you can never know it all. There's always more for you to unpack, and that's the beauty of being able to wake up every single day and just remember, I'm becoming more of me, I'm unlearning, I'm experiencing everything that this world has to offer. Anything is possible today. I mean, today's a miracle.
yep, yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything for me? I know I asked you a ton.
Yeah, I
And
do. I do actually.
yeah, yeah. What you got? What you got?
Yeah, so I would love to know actually how your experience in the military, in the Marines,
Yeah.
has shaped your relationship with trauma, especially when it comes to the body, just because the body holds memory. So maybe d- in what ways do you see certain things resurfacing themselves now that you're out of such a high impacted environment, fast paced, etc.? Do
Yeah.
you see some of those things playing themselves out as you navigate years later or in just day-to-day decisions?
Yeah. So the the intensity and the trauma you experience in the military, it turned out to be um a a treasure for me, to use the your coin. It turned out to be a treasure for me, but that wasn't how it felt at first, and with respect to so many people whose experience doesn't turn out to be a treasure for them, I feel grateful, and it's one of those experiences that I wouldn't change, but I definitely wouldn't want to do again. It's something that I think everybody's ultimately capable of, but nobody should go through.
Yeah.
It's the military is really a spiritual experience on so many levels, and the reason I say that is because um, here you have this system that's designed to strip away reality as you know it and replace it with a new reality, and that new reality is for you to um, ultimately or potentially go to war in some capacity. Um, I think the gift for me was, even though they were able to strip away part of um, my the reality I had going into the Marine Corps, because I didn't completely buy in, I had this space in my consciousness that needed to be filled, and that created space for me to have um, all types of just spiritual experiences and all types of insights and wisdom that I'm super grateful for. So, I know in our culture, um, success from being a rebel is kind of reserved for a small few, the celebrities. But I really think like that's your key, like to not um, to not buy into everything, to have a healthy skepticism of everything, and to question everything, not for the sake of going against the grain, but for the sake of your innate curiosity. Like, don't suppress that, because we all have this desire to be expressive and creative. And when
Mm.
you don't question things, then you suppress that innate desire within you. So the Marine Corps gave me a lot, way more than I anticipated, but I certainly didn't see it as a treasure in the moment.
That's
That
often
came,
how it is. You know,
yeah,
we can't see the beauty of it while we're in the thick of it.
yeah,
But I think it's not supposed to be that way, you know? That's
yeah,
almost bypassing. It's like we're supposed to sit in the chaos and the discomfort, you know, it's the
yeah,
unfolding. Can I ask you, what was your, when you first joined the military, you know, when you were having those thoughts, when you were signing those papers, all of that, what was the driving decision or thoughts based off of that? Was it really coming from a place of, you know, like desire? What was the, just what were the thoughts that were going through your mind in making that decision?
yeah. So it wasn't anything noble. I was like, I wanted to continue playing basketball, and you know, a recruiter told me that I could play on a Marine Corps basketball team, but I didn't connect the dots that I was joining during the wartime. I was a teenager. You're not thinking like that. Like you like whatever. I'm not going to war. Just all of those. I was a teenager, and so I of course my unit wouldn't sign off on the papers for me to play basketball. They were like, "Nope, you going to war, buddy." And so and that was a whole thing in and of itself, and just having to come to grips with, like, I went overseas on a ship, so we didn't even take a plane. A plane, it would have taken like a couple days maybe. I went overseas on a ship, so we had this long like period of like, I don't know, maybe a month if I remember correctly. I don't even remember at this point. So every day it's like I'm getting closer to my death. Like you're just like constantly
Wow.
being reminded of it every day. But what was so cool though was like everything became so much more beautiful. Just like being out in the middle of the ocean. Um, yeah, I just experienced life in a way that I'd never experienced it before, with so much more appreciation, and oh man, it was so beautiful. But at the same time, like what created that beauty was me facing a potential horrible truth every day and accepting it over and over again. It's like, oh man, we're one day closer. Oh man, like we're one day closer. And then one day,
Mm.
like you just get to this point where you're just like, all right, there's no more contemplating. Like you just got to own whatever this is and do your best.
So you say it really changed the relationship with how you perceive death in a way?
Oh, most definitely. Like I became okay with it. I accepted it. But the weird thing happened, like um, when I had my son, when we had our son, then all of a sudden, like a little bit of fear, like kind of crept back in, because now it's like, I want him to know me, you know, and so like I impose, it's a self-imposed fear, right? Because I want him to
Mm.
know me. I'm very aware of that. And so it's not like out of control, but it is present. And for a while, for several years, that fear of dying, hadn't been there at all. Yeah. So that whole impermanence thing, the aside from my son, like music equipment is like um, my my thing, and my wife, just like our circle, just our tight niche. But
Mm.
outside of that, like everything else could just kind of like fall away, and I'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel, wow, because you said you were a teenager, so you were young.
Yeah.
Were you at that time really connected to like the initial gifts you came in this world with, that creativity, that expression within you?
Yeah, so me and my wife were just talking about this yesterday. So it's really cool you brought this up because it's super fresh. So I was a high school like basketball star and was getting recruited by some big colleges and everything, and made some poor decisions and ended up not being able to take that route. And so on one level, I was very aware of how talented I was, but on another level, I didn't appreciate it. And last night I was thinking about like just talking with my wife, like, man, what a gift it was or it is to have a life where I could be so good at something that I never have to question myself. Like, that's freedom. That's what most people are striving for, to not have to question themselves. And I had that.
Mm.
And because I have the wisdom to not try and cling to that, I appreciate the fact that I had I had a chance to have that experience in life. Whether it lasted as long as I wanted it to. Like, I had several years where me, my own personal being, could step into a situation and never have to question myself. Like, that's so incredible. And I meet so
Mm.
many people every day who've never had that gift. So like, if I never have another great experience again in my life, like just the fact that I've had that, like it means everything. Like it's a life worth lived, you know?
Mm. That's beautiful. It's like something you gave yourself too. It's a feeling that was generated from within,
It
just from you
is.
following that passion, that bliss.
It was, and I have to say too, like with basketball gave me that feeling, but it wasn't a random thing. The same way we talk
Yeah.
about cultivating energy within yourself right now. That's what I did as an athlete. I got up at 6 in the morning. I was the first person at the gym. I was the last person to leave. I was putting in. I looked at how many hours other people were putting in, and knew that if I wanted to be as good as they were, I needed to put in the same amount of time plus more. So it was
Yeah.
something that I built. And so it gave me the utmost trust in myself. And so that's what I've been doing in another area of my life. That same type of intensity, that same type of attention to detail, and that same type of consistency, but also not using it to belittle anybody, just doing it because I know what feeling whole feels like. And I know it's something
Yeah.
that I'm capable of I know it's a space that I'm capable of living in. And so to be that example for myself first and foremost, my son, and just anybody who I come in contact with, that's part of that beauty of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful too, because like no one else can do it the way you do it.
No.
No one. In the vastness of this experience, I mean, in a highest perspective, abundance is the only truth to this reality. I mean, we see it in nature, we see it reflected everywhere. The only truth is abundance. I mean, there's infinite amount of people, opportunities, like even the way in which we've been conditioned to compete with one another, to compare against one another, to try to climb a certain, like, a lot of people will take what they're interested in or what they think they want to do just because of the status that they can hold with it or the accomplishment. It's something that could be experienced as like liberation, like even a connection to the source within, like the dedication that you had with that basketball, like the journey it took to get there. That is the whole purpose of the journey. It's never about the college or the NBA or this or
Yep.
that. It's
Yep.
literally about who you get to become in the process of that thing that even makes it worth it. Because think about it, a lot of the stuff that we strive for, our goals that we set, if we were to be handed it right now, would the value would decrease, decrease,
Yeah.
decrease, 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 because we
Yeah.
wouldn't we wouldn't appreciate it. We wouldn't
Exactly.
look at it the same. So it is all
Exactly.
about just like you said, like what you felt in the process of that and knowing that it is coming from within.
Yeah. And I certainly didn't uh, appreciate it to that extent in the moment, but now I can look back and just like, wow, like
Yeah.
I'm speechless because I don't know. With respect to everyone I know, I don't know anyone that I grew up with who felt that way about, you know, who they were and what they were capable of. And so I feel, I feel privileged,
Mhm.
I feel privileged, but I honor it by embodying it, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, one last question.
Okay, okay.
um, with the awareness that you are residing in, just where you're at on your journey, all the things that you've been really cultivating and learning and unpacking in the past few years and stuff. How does that look? Like, I know, congratulations again to your child. That's so
Yeah.
exciting. So how do you, what is your main way of keeping that essence, that connection of like your child alive? Navigating their experience and knowing that they are having their own experience and you're guiding them, but also like like the balance of like the detachment, like just, letting them have their own journey in certain things. So does that look like bringing in for you?
Yeah, so that in itself like brings up or brought up a whole lot of raw emotions for sure. Um and I had to recalibrate and still do, recalibrate on a regular, on a daily basis. But I started realizing that uh, my relationship with things and people is what's going to be most important.
Mhm.
How he sees me interact. That's what's going to be most important. That's what's going to let him know what's important and what's not. Um, and so if I'm being reactive, I'm naturally going to calibrate him that same way.
Yeah.
And so it brings practice to a, a whole nother level because, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes in your haste to be righteous, you can bypass. But when you um, have a little person, you can't bypass. Like you have to be present.
Yeah.
And I realized one of the realizations I had in my life is, and one of the ways I had to check my ego is that we all want peace.
Yeah.
We're all not prepared. We all want peace, but we're all not prepared for the same degree of peace. And I have to be mindful of that when I'm interacting with folks, right? Because like we were at a retreat or and I know my personality, like I'm the person that will get up at 5 in the morning, right? I'm the person that would and I had to realize like that's not most people. And I have to be mindful and respectful of that. So much of my relationship has been being respectful of where other people are, not a put down or not degrading anybody because they accomplish amazing things where they at, but just letting my son see that versatility within me and let him experience that right now, you know. But then also just being able to impart stories of wisdom too, just so as he grows, he can have things to draw back on and understand, um, his identity. I was very intentional, with even what I named him, just his
What's his
name.
name?
Amani is his first name, and it means peace and joy. And it's a name that it's an African name, it's an Arabic name, so it connects him to his roots there. And then his middle name is a Hanu. It's a Algonquin Native American name, and it
Mhm.
means he laughs, bringer of joy, and it connects him to this land that we live on here. And
Yeah.
and he has my last name Garner, and it's to gain, to grow in that way. And so, just even in that regard, just him being able to look at his start and see that his start had a compass attached to it, so he could always, find his way when he's in difficult situations, and just making sure I'm laying those reminders at every
Yeah.
step of his development.
Awesome. That's so exciting. I know, I feel like having a child just causes you to reflect back on your entire life in a way like never before, because now you're aware that you're consciously programming a being that is
Yeah,
coming from you. And so you got to look at your childhood. I mean, what worked in my childhood? What didn't work in my childhood? What did I even become from childhood that, yeah,
yeah,
having to it walks you through a whole movie of your life over
Yeah.
again because the intention to pour good seeds and water into that being is very, of course, very, very high.
Yeah. I had a moment of panic. Like when I found out he was a boy, I was like, oh man. Cause it's just like all I had was me to draw from. And then like my
Yeah,
dad, my relationship with my dad, my stepdad, and our relationships are great, but they definitely had some moments.
yeah,
And some of those moments lasted for years. And so, but that's all wisdom that I can pull from. And
yeah, yeah. Just finding the treasure in it.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because even think about it. I mean, have you had not gone through it's all of us had we had not gone through certain circumstances and experiences, we wouldn't show up as loving, as kind, as intentional, as yeah, just with that intensity behind why we act the way we do, when we experience something that we may not want, we get clarity on what we do want. It is through the opposite end of the spectrum that we get to see through the other side of it.
That loss is a gain. We have to co-write
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. And so it's like, just if we can really come to an understanding of the way, if we can change our perception of just the way that we are viewing bad things or chaotic things or trauma that's just coming up in a day-to-day reality, it can allow us to always come back to that sense of freedom,
Yeah, yeah. Most
and
definitely.
realizing, yeah, and just like I said, things will always happen. Things even in the world around us and the systems, everything, things are always gonna happen. But if we can understand, like, okay, everything does have purpose behind it. Everything is coming from a like, there's a deeper unfolding to this.
Yeah,
Everything,
and use it to
everything.
sharpen yourself.
Yeah,
It's you can see the gift in that. Like, all right, this is gonna make me sharper. Like,
yeah,
yeah, but no, I mean, this has been amazing. It's been a whole lot of fun, and
yeah,
um, I appreciate you making the time to share your gifts and your talents and your perspective, and like we say, like this is part of what growth and healing looks like.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I was excited when you asked me to come, and I was thinking about it when you were talking. You asked me earlier in the podcast, what does it look like for us as humanity to grow together in a way, right?
Yeah,
Well, when humanity, I was thinking about just in the essence of you making this podcast, like the things that we bring into this world, the gifts, the calling, and us having that intuitive like nudge to do that. That is what it looks like. So thank you for showing up on this podcast and just spreading the light in any way. And then even just the fact of what your son is going to be able to then look back and watch one day, see the unfolding of who his father was.
yeah. No, that's beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah,
saying
of
that.
course, of course. I'm
Cool.
glad we connected at the
Me too.
retreat.
Me too. It's so amazing, and I'm glad the group was pretty small too. So that made it so much more impactful.
Yeah,
So
for
where
sure.
where could people find your book?
Yeah, so through my Instagram right now, it is in my bio at you can search up traumaistreasure.com, and then actually in the next 48 hours it will be live on Amazon as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool, well, beautiful. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate you, and here I'm gonna stop recording, and then let's see what's happened.
Is it all?
Nope, it's still on. I don't know what's happening. Did you dig for a booger?
No.
Let me see. I gotta remember to cut that off. Let me see.